You're listening to Season 2 of Beyond Insights, your go-to podcast for all things accounting, business, and technology. Unsure how to improve your leadership skills, or whether you're suited to being a leader to begin with? Looking for ways to build a stronger team or take better risks? Then stay tuned.
From cybersecurity, blockchain, and AI innovations to sustainability, employee retention, and work-life balance, we've got you covered.
We speak to knowledgeable and insightful guests from varied backgrounds, industries, and locations from all around the globe.
From this multiplicity of thought, we strive to find solutions to our most urgent business problems.
Whether you're a small business owner, an accountant, entrepreneur, or even a young professional looking to progress, this podcast is for you.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's dive right in and go beyond insights.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Beyond Insights, the podcast where we explore everything accounting, business, and tech. So today, we're diving into one of the biggest opportunities for accounting firms looking to scale, sort of ditching those bulky, expensive ERP systems and building a lean and integrated tech stack in the cloud. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by our guest, David Tuck. He's the co-founder and the CEO of Mayday, and he's joining us today to unpack how accounting firms can save money, boost efficiency, and stay agile by choosing the right combination of apps. And most importantly, we're going to go through how to avoid the common traps along the way. So if you've ever wondered whether your tech stack is helping you or holding you back, then this episode is absolutely for you. So David, welcome to Beyond Insights.
Hi, Wensley. Thanks so much for having me here. Been really looking forward to this.
Yeah, me as well. So in the way of an introduction, David, you're the co-founder and the CEO of Mayday, which is a tool which helps organizations mend their month ends. So could you tell us a bit about Mayday and how the tool does help with those month end challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, everyone. My name's David Tuck. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Mayday. And Mayday, we also run our CFO tech stack community, which I know we'll come on to talk about in a second. But coming back to Mayday, so yeah, our mission, as you so brilliantly capture there, is to mend month end, reduce down to a single click all of those really painful manual accounting adjustments that contribute to the broken system that we have today, where a finance team is considered proficient if they can close month end within 10 working days. So what do I mean by that? Well, we started with the pain points of being a multi-entity business. So that would be your intercompany balance recs, that would be your intercompany recharges, that would be cross-entity bank reconciliation. And we're really excited now to be broadening that out into pain points that are also relevant for single entity businesses. So first up is our deferred revenue product, then prepayments, and one month end illness at a time. We will tick off those different pain points until ultimately, we can confidently say we cured the disease of month end.
I love that. I mean, that is as good an introduction as I've heard in a while, David. So I think for the people who aren't sort of familiar with yourself, you do have quite deep industry experience in things like professional services and accounting tech. So how's your experience working in the accounting space? And something which wasn't mentioned in the introduction, but founding Chaser, how's that also informed the work that you do today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, my entire career has been in and around accounting. I qualified with Deloitte, then headed up a succession of startup and SME finance teams, faced the challenge there of selling on payment terms. And so that was the background to me founding Chaser. So I've been an accounting tech entrepreneur for the last 12 years now. So built Chaser, which is the leading kind of accounts receivable automation product, won Xero's App Partner of the Year award in 2016 and in 2023. And yeah, been really proud to be building Mayday for the last 4 years now with my co-founder Griff and our fantastic team of now 12. And yeah, that's really solving the issue that was close to my heart of month end, having run those sort of M of SMB finance teams and really toiling with the amount of time each month that we would need to devote purely to the month-end close. And ultimately, Griff and I came together 4 years ago and resolved that surely there had to be a better way.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's fantastic. I think most of the best ideas come from, how can we make this more efficient? How can we solve these problems that maybe we ourselves are experiencing? Because I'm sure it's something that others are experiencing as well. So that's fantastic. I think having done a bit of research on yourself um, before jumping on today, it is a seriously, seriously impressive resume that you've got. So in the way of formal introductions, I'm glad that everyone's got an idea of sort of who you are, but maybe let's break the ice a bit with something more informal. So, what's one interesting thing about yourself that people might not know that you'd like them to know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was giving this a bit of thought beforehand. So I once knocked out Olympic gold medal winning boxer Audley Harrison of a poker tournament. Um,
No
so
way.
yeah, that's my claim to fame. I didn't know who what like, I didn't recognize him. He was at the other end of the table,
Yeah.
and never have I been so glad that I didn't gloat in my life as I was in that moment.
No, that is, I mean, I'm sure that's been sort of told at dinner parties. I know I would be sort of waxing lyrical about a story like that all the time. So, no, that's a great fact for people to know. So, moving on to the topic of today's podcast, which is building a tech stack that can help you grow without costing an arm and a leg. Could you tell us, or all the people who are listening, why are so many big firms still using those expensive ERP systems? What's keeping them there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I might just give a little bit of the backstory to this. So yeah, Mayday we've been going for 4 years now, and our target customer is a sort of 2 to 10 person in-house finance team
Okay.
thriving with Xero and desperate to continue to kind of use it. So we're now at what 270 sort of five-star reviews on the Xero App Store.
Wow.
One calls us the answer to a larger Xero user's prayers, and with our initial kind of multi-entity focus, another one, where beautiful accounting software meets marvelous multi-entity month end. And I think that's
Mm.
a really important kind of backdrop to it. That's what we do as Mayday, and we build brilliant software to delight our customers to kind of solve their month end problems, starting with the needs of multi-entity businesses. And what we came to see with a webinar that we did off the back of winning the Xero Emerging App Partner of the Year award in 2023 was that there was this bigger need, this bigger pain point that we were addressing of, I love Xero as a system. How can I continue to scale with it rather than making, as one of our customers described it, the horrible and hectic move to an ERP system? So that led us to create our CFO tech stack community that we run with Mayday, which is providing the content, the community, the events for in-house finance leaders when it comes to that insight of how they can thrive with Xero and its ecosystem. So brilliant solutions like Mayday, like Sift, and build a
Mhm.
best-in-class tech stack around it to avoid that horrible and hectic move to an ERP system. And so that's, I guess, that's why I'm wearing the Stacked T-shirt, which is
Love it.
our flagship conference that we run with CFO Tech Stack. We were thrilled to have Liam and Tegan from the SIF team at Stack Sydney a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, that's Stacked has been described as by Tyler Caskey as the ZeroCon for in-house finance teams. So that's the kind of context in which I speak about this topic today. So yes, we're thrilled to be building brilliant product to help eviscerate the pain of month end, but we are also serving that wider need of how to do brilliant things in scaling with Xero and its ecosystem as an M of SMB business with an in-house finance team. And look, I mean, I guess the opportunity that we came to see was huge. That there were just these amazing stories, and I know we'll come on to those in a little bit more detail subsequently. But amazing stories that finance teams were doing in scaling with Xero and its ecosystem. We ran the stats on our data, and we found that we had 13 businesses, 13 groups that had 100 million plus, 100 million pounds plus annual turnover, happily
Wow.
scaling with Xero and its ecosystem.
Wow.
Five of those over 200 million pounds, and one with over £1 billion of turnover. And so that's the kind of the backdrop to it, and that's what we're so excited about, was that there hasn't been a precedent, there hasn't been an awareness around just how much it's possible to do in scaling with Xero as a brilliant system that our customers singularly love for what it can do, and how enriched it can be with a best-in-class tech stack around it, and the amazing outcomes that businesses and finance teams can achieve.
Whew. And sort of going back onto those legacy systems, now that we're sort of getting into the different tech stack options that businesses have, what are the most common pain points that you've seen in organizations trying to scale on those legacy systems?
So, I mean, I think it's like at its core, it is the quality of system, the quality of automation that they are able to achieve. So, if you look at some of the cases of the businesses that we've worked with, so Paresh at Alternet, who I know is a shared customer of ours at Mayday and yourselves at Sift.
Yes.
So, they were previously using Sage Intacct as an ERP system. They made the move over to Xero, Mayday, Sift, and a couple of other solutions in their tech stack. They saved £50,000 a year on the cost of their tech stack. But in addition to that, and this really kind of demonstrates the point of just how much it's possible to do with a kind of a Xero, Sift, Mayday based tech stack. At the point that they made that move 18 months ago, they had 9 people in their finance team. Over the intervening 18 months, 3 of those finance team members have chosen to move on. And that business has not needed to replace them because of the superior quality of the kind of Xero, Sift, Mayday based system that they have been able to build. So in addition to saving £50,000 on the cost of their tech stack, they saved £200,000 in cost of their finance team, through the better quality of system. And, they're able to close months end faster, achieve better, more accurate results, and to do that whilst having £250,000 of additional kind of budget to spend on other things.
Wow. No, that is that's amazing. That's amazing. And so, okay, let's say now I'm starting to consider what we're discussing, moving on to a good tech stack, which can save me time and can save me money, get me more value. When does it make sense for a company to move away from an ERP? So are there any triggers that you can sort of suggest? Are there signs that finance teams should be sort of looking out for? What would I be looking at when I start to think about making that change?
Yes, I think the way that we like to think about this is almost to turn that question on its head and say, what's stopping me from thriving with Xero and its ecosystem? I think that's been the issue previously. There's been a misconception that Xero is just for S of SMB businesses, and don't get me wrong, that's its core, and it does a brilliant job for S of SMB businesses. But for those those larger kind of M of SMBs with in-house finance teams, there's been inadvertent signaling previously, and so people have sort of sleptwalked into the thought process of I need an ERP system, whereas in actual fact it should be the other way around. They should be thinking, okay, I can, Xero plus its ecosystem can work for me until and unless there is a specific reason why it can't. And this is not to say, like, we're very, very mindful with CFO Tech Stack that we don't fall into the trap of blinkered boosterism. And we're not saying that, Xero plus its ecosystem will work for every single business for the remainder of its life. There will absolutely be reasons that a business might need to move to an ERP system. That might be like we had a financial services business where, by virtue of how heavily regulated they were, user permissions was really, really important to them. They had to have very tight, very granular user permissions about who could do what in the general ledger, because if kind of things deviated from that, they could quite literally be put out of business. That was a reason that drove them rightly to an ERP kind of system. Sometimes there's sort of local tax filing requirements, although we've seen some good workarounds with that, with people running parallel Xero organizations along with a kind of local system for tax filings. We've seen sometimes that the transaction limits with Xero can bite, although the Finance Leader Advisory Council that we run with CFO Tech Stack described that really well as a feared but phantom issue, because you can often do great stuff using an ecosystem app for aggregated postings. But bringing it back to your original question, I think it's really, really important that people look at the question, not when should I use Xero plus its ecosystem, but rather, why can't I continue to use Xero plus its ecosystem? And only when they get to a very specific requirement that can't be solved by Xero plus its ecosystem working together, Xero's ecosystem being a core part of its DNA. Xero opened up their API in 2009, 3 years into their life. And so it's really important that businesses, finance teams think about Xero plus its ecosystem as one. And so only if they've got a requirement that can't be solved by Xero plus its ecosystem, then and only then is it a point at which they should be contemplating an ERP move.
I think that's a really, really good way to put it. Absolutely, you've explained very well there that in some cases it might make sense to go via the ERP system routes, but I absolutely agree. I think until such a time that it's not working for you, it is a good idea to sort of follow the other trend of the cloud-based tech stack. So that's a really good answer. And sort of in keeping with that, could you just give us an idea of what a modern cloud-based tech stack actually looks like for an organization?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a bunch of great content on the CFO Tech Stack website about this. So cfotechstack.com, lots of great content on there. The most popular section of the weekly newsletter that we run is our How I Stacked It section, which is finance leaders like Parish at Outernet sharing the tech stacks that they use. And I might just, I know some people are kind of watching this, and some people will be listening in, and there'll be the opportunity for those that are listening to kind of access the resources. This is an example of Parish's from Outernet, his tech stack.
Yes.
So we've got Mayday there, we've got Sift, we've got Pento that they use for payroll, and we've got Soldo that they use as a spend management kind of system. We see the average size of a tech stack would be about 5 or 6 apps that a business would have in place around Xero. We have our app map on the CFO Tech Stack website that provides some more information about this. But I think, Parish's example gives you a really good flavor, and that's something that's been really important for us to achieve with CFO Tech Stack, is to demystify. I think often businesses have got into, like, people talk about app fatigue a lot. I don't think it's app fatigue. I think it's app overload. They sort of go to the Xero app store, they see, over 1,000 solutions on there, whereas in actual fact, there are a very kind of, a very specific number of categories that are kind of relevant to them as finance teams. And actually, it's a very kind of manageable process to go about building a tech stack. And that's something I'm really proud of, the progress we're making with CFO Tech Stack to normalize and demystify.
Fantastic. And you did mention there that this particular screen share that you're giving us right now will be very, very useful for those who are watching the podcast. But for those of you who aren't watching and are listening in, we will happily share that with you. I think really, really important to see a real world example of how the shift to a tech stack was done successfully. And so, we'll be happy to share that information for those of you who are listening in rather than watching. But that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, David.
Amazing.
Now, In terms of building a smart tech stack, we've had an example that you've just shared with us there, but in your opinion, how should an in-house finance team approach building an organization's tech stack? What's the starting point?
Sure. So, I mean, I think starting with those kind of, those core needs around accounting automation, around reporting, around accounts payable, around data ingestion, all of which we detail more on the cfotechstack.com website and the app map that we have as part of that. I think, peer insights is so valuable and important as well. And the How I Stacked It section of the newsletter plays a great part of that. Also on with CFO Tech Stack, and you find the link to this on the website, we run our forum, the Stack Exchange, which is a sort of Slack group, discussion group that finance leaders can join and ask questions of their peers as part of that.
Great.
I think that would be my overarching piece of advice to kind of any finance leader is like the great thing about what we do as finance leaders is, all like businesses are slightly different and all people are different too, but there's very little that hasn't been like encountered before as problems. That's sort of the beauty of the fact that all accounting emanates from generally accepted accounting principle. I think there is that opportunity to really sort of lean on your peers for how they have approached things and benefit from their insights. And then it's the fact that like at our level of the market, solutions will have kind of trial periods for you to go out and test things for yourselves and make sure that it works for you. I think that's something that is a stark contrast to the ERP level of the market, where you get sold kind of software at our level of the market. And that's one of the many brilliant things about kind of building at this level of the market is, as a finance leader, you get to go and sell yourself, because you get to you get to sell yourself on whether this is the right thing for you, because you get to do your research and then you get to try it and see firsthand before you need to make a buying decision whether it works for you.
Absolutely. And slightly more difficult one, but what are some core apps that you think every scaling organization should at least consider? And if you can, just explain why, please.
Look, so I think if I go to those sort of core, those core areas. So we've got your general ledger in Xero. Then there's us from a Mayday perspective, accounting automation, month end automation. I'm very aware of my hosting environment, and we have Parish as a great shared customer. We have lots of great shared customers. So from Sift, from a sort of management reporting kind of perspective, phenomenal solution. And then I'd be going out into the sort of the accounts payable, the spend management categories, the data ingestion side of things. Potentially looking at a financial planning and analysis solution there. And I think that's where, in the interest of editorial independence, Wendy, you're not going to get me to name any specific solutions. I'm afraid lots of great ones that we detail more on our app map as part of CFO Tech Stack.
I love that. And I was just going to mention as well that the highlighting of Sift there wasn't something that we've asked of you, David. That was of your own volition, and we do appreciate the support that you give us at Sift as well. So another thing that I'd like to find out from you, David, is how important is that integration between tools? So you've put together a tech stack. How important is that integration aspect of things, and what are some common mistakes that finance teams make when they're choosing the apps in their tech stack?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I think the quality of the integration with Xero is obviously paramount. I think that the most common mistake I've seen people make is not being crystal clear on what their needs are in terms of the solutions, and also not recognizing like it's so important to get the best tool for the job. That if you look at the average size of a tech stack, 5 or 6 is not that many kind of different solutions, and never trade depth for breadth find the best tool for kind of your job, because this stuff's really, it's really easy to do badly. It's incredibly hard to do well. And so taking the time to identify the job that you need to do, and then B, the best of breed tool to solve it.
Yeah, no, that's very good. I think that's fantastic advice for anyone listening in and thinking about making the move over. And so in terms of benefiting mostly out of making the move, what role does automation play in improving sort of efficiency and profitability?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think I'm really fond of the idea of the hierarchy of needs as it applies
Nice.
to the finance function. That, let's think about that broken system that has been the case, where a finance team is considered proficient if they can close month end in 10 working days. We have a stat where it costs, a very average of $173,000 per year just to close month end as a finance team,
Wow.
because of all of the manual work involved. And so what does eliminating that manual work kind of, what benefits does that bring? Well, you get a better quality of management information faster, so you can take better business decisions. But the finance team can then move up the hierarchy of needs. They're working with that better quality of data in a more timely basis, and they have more time to spend because they're not kind of belabored with the drudge work of closing month end, which means they can do more front-footed kind of FP&A commercial business partnering work, which has historically always been crowded out by the subsistence need of the finance function, which is to close month end. So we're incredibly bullish about the opportunity for the finance function that great automation will bring about by enabling them to rise up that hierarchy of needs and do so much more, and be more fulfilled in their work, because you struggle to find a finance team member who describes month end as fulfilling. It is repetitive manual work, which is why it's such a great use case for brilliant automation.
Absolutely. No, that's a fantastic point. I think for people, thinking about making the move, the return on investment is more than just sort of pounds and rands for our South African listeners. But as you just mentioned there, the time that you save, the sort of efficiency that you gain, the scalability which comes with it. So I think that's a fantastic point that you've made there. So let's look to the future now, and some advice which I think might be useful from you for all of our listeners. What trends are you seeing in the accounting tech space that finance teams should keep an eye on?
So, I mean, I think it's irresponsible maybe to answer that question, irresponsible and impossible to answer that question without talking about AI.
Okay.
Because look, I think, we're very bullish about the opportunities for kind of AI. Our kind of AIR technology, as we call it, artificially intelligent recognition of accounting adjustments. There is so much opportunity to reduce things down to a kind of a single click, and eviscerate that manual work. So I think that's something that, as a finance leader, it's really important to be promotion versus prevention in mindset when it comes to kind of opportunities in AI. But equally, as I mentioned before, we're very bullish about the role of the finance leader and the opportunity for the finance leader. So I think there's also an excessive hype around AI within accounting, that it's not in our view, it's not going to disrupt and kind of remove the role of the finance person. It's going to move them up the hierarchy of needs. But we're not of the view that it is going to, it's not going to remove the role, because there's always going to be a human in charge of the process. And I'm fond of saying, accounting is nothing but edge cases. There is so much manual work that can be eviscerated with great AI, great automation, but there will always be that really important kind of human role at the final step, and that human role can be so leveraged by the removal of the manual work that has previously had to be carried out to get there.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And so let's say, for example, a business wants to start this transition based on the conversation we've had. A business wants to start this transition tomorrow. What's the first thing that you would suggest they should do?
So I would absolutely recommend going to kind of to cfotechstack.com, because I've been there as a finance leader to try and do this stuff on my own, and it's daunting. It's daunting, and so that's really the sort of the founding mission behind CFO Tech Stack, is to normalize building a great tech stack around Xero and its ecosystem, to share the stories and establish that precedent, because it's really amazing what finance teams are able to do, but they need to feel a psychological safety to do that. So I would absolutely kind of recommend going there first, because that is, anyone who's in this situation going, okay, this is me and I want to give it a go, like, your mindset of, oh, I don't know where to start, and like, the kind of risk involved, am I going to be sticking my neck out? Like, that is absolutely why we built CFO Tech Stack as a community, because you should feel psychological safety doing this, because it can and should be the norm and the default option, rather than, as has historically been the case, because there hasn't been that precedent, it's felt like the risky move, when moving to an ERP system is the incredibly risky thing to do.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, well, I really, really hope that people have taken loads away from our conversation, David. I know I have. I think there's a couple of things you mentioned in there, that have really, really, really interested me. And I think, had we not only had this 30-minute period, I'd be peppering you with a lot more questions. But before we do end off, I do just want to, as is the case in all of our Beyond Insight episodes, finish off with a couple rapid fire questions for you. So,
great.
Firstly, outside of Sift and Mayday, what is your favorite app at the moment?
I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say Xero, because you didn't.
That's
you didn't
true.
Exclude that one. There we go.
Yes, well played.
And I'm sticking with it.
Well played. I love that. I love that. Okay, and then what's one piece of tech that you think is overhyped?
I'm going to go back to my previous one around. I think the kind of the AI next gen kind of accounting that's gonna supposedly disrupt the kind of the Xeros and the QBOs of this world. I don't think that that will be the case. I think AI is going to have a hugely important role to play as a sustaining rather than a disruptive innovation.
Awesome. And then what's the best tech decision you've seen a firm make?
So, I think, look, I'm going to repeat myself, but I can't think of a better example than Parish's and Outernet. And look, there's a bunch of other stories of that ilk. Kathy at Pure Escapes, who led that 7-entity business from NetSuite over to Xero, plus a tech stack around it. That's a really bold thing to do, but it's to the Parish's example, £250,000 a year that they've saved, and they are able to achieve better things as a finance team even after that saving. It's just incredible.
Fantastic. And then just lastly, if there's one thing that you'd like people to take away from today's podcast, what should it be?
Yeah, so I think, as I'm really fond of saying, it's not, so let's contextualize this in terms of, we're talking M of SMB, in-house finance team. Not just that it's possible to scale with Xero and its ecosystem, not just that it's cheaper, but invariably, to the Parish and Outernet example, it enables you to build a far kind of superior quality of system as well. So I think the one thing I'd want people to take away from any interaction that they have with with me, with us from a CFO Tech Stack and Mayday perspective, is feeling that sense of safety and moreover excitement that they are in the right place in scaling with Xero and its ecosystem, unless they've hit one of those, rare and very specific points, which mean they absolutely, it's abundantly clear that they can't do that. But unless they have, then they should feel, very kind of happy and excited that they are in the right place.
Fantastic. Well, David, once again, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I think the insights that you've provided have been massively, massively helpful. And I know for a fact that'll be the case for everyone listening and watching this episode of Beyond Insights today. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll chat again soon.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me.
Such a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Insights podcast. Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now. And please share with any of your colleagues or friends or family members that you think might benefit from listening to this podcast. That's all from us. Until next time, see you then.